Not at all.
Bye.
Goodbye.
In case you just joined us, we're asking, would it be easier to give if there were fewer charities? The toll-free number anywhere in the 3 maritime provinces is 1-800-565-1940. That's toll-free, 1-800-565-1940. In the Halifax area, 420-9336. My guest is Cathy Barr, Vice President of Operations at Imagine Canada, which conducts research into trends and issues for charities and nonprofits. Our next caller is John Stevenson in Woodstock, New Brunswick. Hi.
Good afternoon, folks. How are you?
Not too bad. Do you think it would be easier to give if there were fewer charities?
Yes. And my perspective is from the funeral industry. I work at a funeral home here in Woodstock, and there's 2 points, actually 3, that you can look at. It's from the family who's choosing charity or charities in their loved one's name.
Yes.
There's the people that come in. Excuse me. Pardon me. People that come in off the street for the visitations and whatnot, and what ones do they choose? And then there's an aspect of it for in-house with the funeral homes too. It's the administration of said donations.
Yes.
Taking the cash, taking checks, writing out the all the information and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if it could be streamlined at some way, at some point, at some kind, it would certainly make it a lot easier from my perspective in the business that I work in.
And that's an interesting perspective to have. Cathy Barr.
Yes, that's not a perspective I've heard before. I think John obviously has a good point from where he's sitting. It's administratively difficult for him to deal with these multiple charities. I think, though, rather than reduce the number of charities, it might be worthwhile thinking about ways to streamline that process. I mean, there's an online giving portal now called CanadaHelps.org where anyone can make a donation to any charity in Canada and get an immediate receipt, for example. So there are ways, maybe, it's just a matter of changing that particular system for donations.
Right.
Have you noticed whether that has streamlined any of the administration of contributions made as memorials?
Ask me?
Yeah.
No, we haven't seen anything like that here.
Mm-hmm.
What usually happens is people come in and the first thing they ask is, what have the family chosen? And
yes.
If the family haven't chosen any, they really don't know. So it just seems that any kind of a trend would be they grab the cards off of our rack that would be one of the bigger national consortiums, like the Cancer Society or the Lung Association, that sort of thing.
Yes.
The fail-safe is one of those, and you kind of left wondering if maybe some of the smaller, more local charities are being left out because the person has to make a snap decision, or they feel they have to make a snap decision, and they get the most popular one, that kind of thing.
Okay. Thank you very much for calling in.
Thanks, Costas.
1-800-565-1940, toll-free in all 3 provinces. In the Halifax area, 420-9336. Our next caller is Natalie Turner in Lawrencetown, Nova Scotia. Hi.
Hi. I was just thinking as well when we talk about charities that it's not always the money that we give, but also our time that we give.
Yes.
Being that I have young children and stuff, I don't always have the extra money to provide to all the charities, but I'd like to donate and sometimes have more time that I can give to them than I do financially.
And that still means making a choice,
mm-hmm.
because there's so many needs in any given community.
Right, and a lot of times we forget about that donation of our time is part of all of that, not just financially.
So what guides you there? Is it anything that parallels the kind of decision you might make giving money?
I think a lot of it's being an example to our children and being involved in our community as well. And that, there's people that are out there who are maybe less off than us, and that, maybe not financially, but there are needs of lots of people out there, and that, setting an example for our children to be involved in our communities as well, which we might be getting away from.
Okay, Cathy Barr, what about that?
I think that's a really interesting take on this, and I was thinking of something similar when I was listening to the stories you were doing before we came to this segment about the benefit concerts that were held locally. And I was thinking that, clearly there is a desire among many people to to contribute not just money but time. I mean, all those people that were putting on those benefit concerts, they could have just donated money to the Red Cross or something like that. They didn't need to do that. But I think people, and Natalie's expressing the same kind of desire to give to their community, not just money, but of their time and of themselves to, for whatever reason. There's all kinds of research showing that volunteering is, good for your health. It's good for your mental health, your physical health. You're being a good role model for your own children and other young people in the community. It makes a community a better place, and that urge as well actually does contribute to the proliferation of charities, because people may see, there's a national charity doing something about something, but there's nobody in my community doing it. And so I don't want to just send money to that charity in Toronto or Ottawa. I want to actually do something locally. So I think that drive to be involved actually also does contribute to the number of charities that are out there, but clearly it's responding to a human need.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you.
That toll-free number, 1-800-565-1940, anywhere in Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, or Nova Scotia. 1-800-565-1940, toll-free. In Halifax, 420-9336. Just before we go to the next call, Cathy Barr, the organization where you work, Imagine Canada, does research into Canadian charities. What are some of the trends you've noticed when you look at the small, medium-sized charities over the past few years in Canada?
In terms of what specifically?
I guess issues for them that might get them thinking about what they should address in terms of efficiencies.
Right. Okay. Well, there's a lot of issues that have been, I wouldn't say they're necessarily new. They're issues that have been around for quite a long time. But we were talking earlier about government downloading, et cetera. I mean, that and government, not putting so much money into charities as they used to. Well, that obviously created a lot of financial strain on charities. So most charities, there's a few very large, well-resourced charities in Canada, but the majority of charities are small and medium-sized. They operate, very much on a tight budgets. Many of them, maybe have a few months of operating cash at the most, so they're constantly looking for funds, which of course the donors see in these regular requests for them. So that's one real pressure on charities that does occasionally make them look at either merging or doing one thing that's common or is becoming more common is shared services arrangements where the charities remain separate, legal entities, etc., but they may share a common space, physical space, offices. There's a place here in Toronto called the Centre for Social Innovation, which houses a number of small charities. And then when they do that, they get a lot of efficiencies because they share their computer equipment and their photocopy equipment and perhaps their financial and accounting materials, etc. So that can be quite efficient for charities. Another trend that tends to lead charities towards thinking of partnering or merging is it's becoming, many charities find it difficult to get volunteers. People are maybe not volunteering quite in the same way, at least, that they used to. Particularly finding board volunteers is challenging, volunteers who are willing to sit on the boards of charities. So, and charities do compete against each other, not just for money, but for those board volunteers and for service delivery volunteers as well. So those are some of the things that go on in the charitable sector that do lead us to regularly talk about how we can be more efficient, more effective, work better together, possibly merge, but there's lots of other things we can do aside from merging to make ourselves more efficient.
Okay, let's move along to our next caller to Maritime Noon, Warren Tiemann in Browns Flats, New Brunswick. Hi.